everybody. Welcome to week 50, episode 50 of the Hey Everybody podcast with me, Christopher Gold. I realized that I never say my name on the podcast. I just realized that just now. So if somebody were to discover the podcast, they might just go like, oh, some guy. Of course, that can only take place in a world where we were optimistic enough to believe that some random person would just discover this podcast. But who knows, man? As shows come back, maybe the podcast audience will get bigger. I don't know. I played my first unofficial show last week for an organization called Feeding America. I played a half hour in the parking lot behind my local music store, and some people came out, and if you're one of those people, I really appreciate it. It felt really good to play music and sort of get back to it finally. That was my first public show in front of an audience in 459 days, which maybe it definitely is the longest I've gone without playing a show for people in maybe 15 years. I've been at this for a while, despite the fact that I'm only 23. Isn't that weird? And it felt good to play, and I thank y'all for coming out. I have a lot of shows coming up. Many, almost all of them, honestly, are outdoors and with people that are encouraging distancing still. And I've said on the podcast before, but I think it's important coming out of what we're coming out of to give people some time and some space and some understanding while they try to figure out what feels good for them. And, science is just one part of it when it comes to our behavior moving forward. It's a big part of it, but it is just the one part. Science can say all kinds of things, and it might affect someone's comfort level, but their comfort level may also exist somewhat independently from science, given their background and what they've been through. I have a fear of flying, which is not scientific at all. Flying is an exceedingly safe way to travel, and I know that, and I've read the studies and all that stuff, but I'm scared to fly. I'm gonna get over it, but I'm scared to fly. Let's have some coffee so I can show you something new. That's very hot. Check it. New mug. I got this mug for Father's Day. It is a Dwight Schrute mug, doing one of his funny jokes from The Office, which is one of my favorite shows. And my son got me this mug and a book full of spaghetti western posters, which is awesome, and a record and a handmade card and a cookie and all kinds of stuff, and it was great. I hope you had a good Father's Day. Same as we talked about on Mother's Day, these calendar holidays can be tricky because when people celebrate something that exists in an area of life that you don't feel very celebratory about, maybe you lost your dad, maybe you lost your child, maybe you've never gotten to be a dad even though you wanted to be, maybe your dad was a bummer. I don't know. I just know that these days can be hard for people, and I wanted to let you know that my thoughts were with you, and I hope it wasn't too terrible. My Father's Day, my actual Father's Day, was very good. It was lovely. We just spent the day together, kind of doing what we might normally do, and it was awesome. It did not start till about 1 o'clock in the afternoon because all three of us slept in that late. And the reason for that is the story I'm going to tell you this week. And I'm going to preface it with this because I've learned this as a quasi-professional traveling storyteller. If you're going to tell a story for a crowd of people, that involves people in harm's way, you must open with, everybody's fine. There are going to be moments in this story where you feel like, oh, everyone's fine. There were a couple times I would tell stories thinking like, well, I don't want to give away the ending of the story. But I realized people were not able to enjoy the story or even feel the brief moments of levity and humor sprinkled throughout the story because they were so concerned that, oh my God, Christopher Gold has a cyst on his brain. Which I do. Everything's fine, probably. I hear you, Lori. I'm supposed to get an MRI. But you know, that's like a whole thing. And I'm always busy. And I'll tell you what had me busy on Saturday. So Ollie got his second dose of the vaccine because that's what we believe in. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just here to tell you what I do. And, you know, Todd Snyder said on a live record once, he said, I did not come here to change your mind about anything. I came here to ease my own mind about everything. And I love that. So my music and my stage banter and my podcast and my writing and my whatever else is just my way of processing things. And sometimes people's minds and hearts are changed by hearing me process out loud, and that's why I do it out loud. I could probably count on one hand the number of times I sat down and made something going, I need to change some minds, because I'm not sure, I think some minds need to be changed, but I'm not sure how effective it is if that's your goal. You know, I think it can come out a little contrived and that kind of thing. So we have a lot of people in the medical field that we trust, and we took their advice and we got vaccinated, and then we took their advice and we got Ollie vaccinated. So Friday he gets his second dose, everything's great. Friday night, as is expected, he gets a little bit of a fever, but his spirits are high, everything's cool. Saturday, he feels totally fine. We go out, we shoot a video with my bass player because he had this funny idea for like a promo thing that you guys will see later. Come home, we eat like a late-ish dinner, about 7:30. Immediately after dinner, I'm bringing the dishes to the kitchen. My wife is in the kitchen, and Ollie, I find out when I come back in the living room, is just laying on the couch doing nothing. And I say, hey man, how you feeling? And he says, my chest hurts. And I say, oh, okay. You know, but of course my dad brain is going, what? So I call Tori out to the living room and I say, hey, Ollie's saying that his chest hurts just a little bit. And Ollie looks up at her, which gives me the chance to give Tori the eyes. And she says, okay, what do you think we should do? And I said, well, why don't you call Nurse Direct and I'll sit here with Ollie. And so I'm rubbing Ollie's back and I pull out my phone and I Google, just out of curiosity, if this is a common side effect of the vaccine, because if it is, you know, that will ease my mind quite a bit. And it turns out that it is. People of varying ages and even young kids are getting some temporary swelling that's causing some chest pains that goes away on its own in a day or two. It's fine. And that's all I'll say about it, because I'm not here to talk medicine or give you guys advice. Talk to a doctor. But, you know, we're on the phone with Nurse Direct and they say, you should take him in. And we say, okay. And she says, only one of you can go because of COVID precautions still. That's a bummer. And you have to wear a mask. And we say, okay. It's decided pretty quickly that I will take Ollie to the ER. I think this was a heroic act on my wife's part to benefit me. I think it was not easy for her to stay home, but I think she knew that the way my brain works and my anxieties, and I think she knew it was going to be impossible for me to do it. So, very thankful to her that she took what was in my mind the harder position and stayed home. I take Ollie to the ER, and this is about 8:15 we get there. And immediately we see a bunch of people not wearing masks, a bunch of people in groups of 3 or 4. It's real frustrating. It's, what are the rules? I don't understand. You can't call it a rule if you don't enforce it, really. That's called a suggestion. I even saw a nurse walking around with her nose hanging out the whole time. But that's probably a conversation for another day. I tell them what's going on. They say, okay. We see the triage nurse in the waiting room. She takes his temperature and his pulse. And now we sit in the waiting room for what ends up being over an hour. While people that... You get a glimpse of humanity in an ER waiting room that you might not even want. You see all kinds of things. I'm a big believer that there's two kinds of situations. There's the kind that present themselves and the kind you get yourself into. And on this particular night, it being a Saturday, we saw a lot of people that had gotten themselves into situations, and I'll leave it at that were somehow, though seemingly not in a ton of immediate trouble, somehow going ahead of us over and over and over. We sit there for an hour. And, Ollie gets up to use the restroom, and he comes back, and I say, how's your chest feeling? And he says, it's worse when I get up and move around. And I'm going, well, that's something. And finally, and he's not this kind of kid, and he never does this, he said, hey, would you go ask them when we're going to get to see the doctor? And that's how I know, he's going through something right now. So I go up to the counter, and I say, hey, I'm not trying to give anybody a hard time. I understand you guys are very busy, but we have been here over an hour now. And she said, yes, we are very busy. And I said, yeah, I understand that. It's just, it has been over an hour, and I just wanted to make sure we haven't fallen through the cracks or something. I know these things happen. And she says, well, let me check the computer for you. And she says, yeah, it does look like you've been here over an hour. And I'm going, I know that we've been here. I just told you. If you don't think I know how long I've been sitting here while my only child experiences chest pains, and you let some guy who feels dizzy go ahead and, but you got to mash that right down, because I don't want to get tossed out of an emergency room for losing my stuff on an employee. And I know they have a hard job and all that stuff. So I say, yep, okay, I just wanted to make sure that we are still going to be seen. And she says, yep, just as soon as we can. Confirming my theory that somewhere a mistake was made. Literally a minute later, if that, someone comes out and says, Oliver Gold, and we get a room. They do an EKG and a chest x-ray. And we're waiting, and I'm texting Tori, and we're waiting, and I'm trying to keep Ollie's mood up, and he's very frustrated because now we've been there about 3 hours, and he's had to wear this mask the whole time, and he wears glasses, so they're fogging up, and it's just frustrating to be a kid in a physical condition in the scary environment of an emergency room, wearing a mask. It sucks. The next time a nurse comes in, we're waiting for all these results, and the nurse comes in, and I say, hey, is there any chance that when it's just he and I in this room alone, that we could take our masks off? He's feeling very uncomfortable. And she says, oh yeah, I was supposed to tell you, as soon as you come back here, you can just take them off, even if there's a doctor in the room. And I'm going, oh, good to know now. Thank you. But again, I'm trying to have empathy and sympathy. She has a very hard job. She's working the ER on Saturday. So I say, thank you very much. I appreciate that. So we take the masks off. That makes Ollie a little more comfortable. He's hooked up to all these tubes, and he's got an IV in now. He's got the pulse thing on his finger. He's got a blood pressure cuff, and he's got the EKG thing, which is where they stick 10 things to you and hook leads up to him, and you're plugged into this machine, and things are beeping. And the whole time we're trying to watch Futurama, and I'm trying to convince him that everything's fine. The doctor comes in, and he says, well, the EKG showed that his D-dimer is elevated, which can mean blood clots. And then there's this pause that is just too... I'm going to pause here. If you're watching this with your kids, I think that's awesome, but I'm going to take off some filters here. So there might be some language that you might find unsavory for your kids or for yourself. I don't think any of it will be offensive. This is just how I talk in real life. I'm very sailory. It's fine. Don't worry about it. They're just sounds you make with your mouth. Doctor says, could mean blood clots, and there's a pause that is just too goddamn long. for a man to be talking to a 12-year-old about blood clots and to take a pause like that isn't to comfort the kid. So I kind of rub Ollie's arm a little bit and I say, okay, what does that mean? And the doctor says, well, usually it means nothing, and I swear to God, this is what he said. He goes, usually it means nothing, but 25% of the time, dead. Oliver's eyes. He stares up at me and I go, not you though. And I look at the doctor and I make that face that I'm capable of making that you've never seen on the podcast because I love you guys. But I bet you can imagine my reaction when someone is scaring the shit out of my kid and he's already scared. So I make the face. The doctor reads the face and immediately goes, oh, no. You're going to be totally fine. Everything's going to be fine. We just have to do this additional test. We're going to do a CAT scan. And I say, okay. This whole time, they're not explaining any of these things. They're saying, we're going to do an EKG. We're going to do a chest x-ray. We're going to do a CAT scan. And then it's up to me to explain to Ollie in real time. Here's what that means. No one's cutting you open. It's not going to hurt at all. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. So eventually they take us for the CAT scan. And Ollie, previously, when the doctor's in the room, had said, can you be there when I get the CAT scan? And I said, I will definitely be there. And the doctor interjects and says, well, there is some radiation and we don't encourage people to stay in the room. And I just said, I will definitely be there. With all the tenacity and determination that I have accumulated over a lifetime of being an independent musician who people say no to, and I just keep going. So we get to the CAT scan room. They put Ollie in a wheelchair, even though he didn't really need that. And they take him down there, and they put a lead vest on me. And I stayed in there I'm holding Oliver's hand. I'm saying, you're doing great, buddy. It's almost over. Everything's great. This is how we're going to find out that everything's fine. You're doing awesome. I'm really proud of you. CAT scan's over. We're back in the room. They say, should be about 45 minutes before we get results. Now it's midnight. We say, okay. And to their credit, exactly 45 minutes later, we come in and the doctor says, so we looked at the CAT scan and great news, no blood clots. And we go, yes, for a second, because we're still going, but what then? And then the doctor goes, hey, there's a cardinal outside. We experienced a death in the family last year, and we were told what is likely a myth, that when you see a cardinal, it's someone visiting you from the other side. So, hey, thanks for watching the podcast. I'm sure you have a lot of entertainment options up there. So the doctor says, no blood clots. Did you get your shot in the left arm? And Ollie says, yeah, I sleep on my right side, so I got the shot in my left arm. And the doctor goes, awesome. Here's what's happening. When your body reacts to a new thing, a virus or whatever, you have lymph nodes all over your body, and they swell up when your body is responding to something, which means the vaccine is working exactly as advertised and exactly as it's supposed to, and everything's going great. Unfortunately, you have lymph nodes all the way through your left side and into your chest here, and they're all very swollen because your body's doing such a good job sort of taking in this vaccine. And that's why you have all this tightness and discomfort, because there's nowhere for those things to swell to. It just causes some discomfort and pain. He said in a day or two, and every minute between now and then, you're going to feel better and better and better and better and better. Everything's totally fine. If you feel any more discomfort, take some Tylenol, blah, blah, blah. Try to get you guys out of here in the next 10 minutes. About an hour later, the lady came in. Now it's like 1:30 in the morning, I think. The lady came in and got us all signed out and that kind of thing. We got home at 1:45, took off all of Ollie's EKG stickers and took the bandage off where his IV was and cleaned him up and got his teeth brushed and got him to bed probably by 2. And then my wife and I stayed up and had a beer that I really feel like I earned, and just sort of relaxed and tried to let those endorphins go. So that was our weekend, and it was stressful and frustrating and at times scary and uncertain, and I felt like I was doing a job that I was in no way qualified to do. But in the spirit of this podcast and how we talk about our mindset and thinking about our thoughts and adjusting our perspective and what David Foster Wallace has to teach us about the way we interact with the world around us and how much of that is up to us, I've been really focused on the clarity. I went a very long time that day and in the days since with no other concerns or worries or anxieties or stresses or thoughts or anything. Even when I felt upset at something that was happening, or I felt upset with a person we were interacting with, it went away immediately in service of just take care of my kid. Just make sure my kid's going to be okay. And on the other side of that, I can see that clarity for the gift that it was, because it was only in that clarity that I was really able to be of proper service to my son and to my wife. And it was only in that clarity that I was really able to experience the feeling of relief that I thankfully walked away from all of this with. And I feel like the lesson to be learned now is to try to achieve that level of focus on what really matters in the absence of fear or tragedy or some terrible event, you know? And it's impossible. You have to worry about paying the rent. You have to worry about your work. You have to worry about the next song or episode of the podcast or getting to the next show and the logistics of that and where we're going to stay and all that kind of stuff. But you can deal with those things differently if it's really, truly existing in a world where, honest to God, all that matters is that the people I care about are safe and healthy and happy. So I would prefer to not have a weekend like we had again for a long time, but I know that's not realistic. So my only real option is to take from it what is to be taken from it, to find the good. And the good is that our son's doing great. And the good is that I got a reminder that somewhere in you is a core of what you really think matters, and it's small, and it burns very hot, and you could try to access that all the time. Anytime I feel stressed out about something, I can try to burrow back down into that. What do I really, 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 really care about? Because I tell you what, if there was something truly wrong with my son, and quitting music would fix that, or, you know, burning my record collection, or never doing the podcast, it would fix that, I would decide to do that so quickly, it would almost seem like it happened before anyone asked. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's all that matters is him and his mom. And I was grateful for the opportunity to experience that truth this weekend. But again, we don't need to do it again anytime soon. Coffee. And of course, the joke being, since we were there past midnight, Ollie and I rang in Father's Day in the ER. And the joke also was when Tori said, you know, thanks for doing this, thanks for taking him. I just said, well, you know, I gotta earn those Father's Day presents. And Father's Day is weird for me because it's like being rewarded for doing something that you would pay for the privilege to do. You know, being with Tori and being Ollie's dad is by a billion miles the best thing about my life. And the fact that they buy me presents for doing it is insane. It's a little bit like how they pay the dudes that make adult movies. I bet they'd do it for free. I apologize if that was crass. You guys want to hear a song? I think I'm going to start moving away from doing the weekly song regularly. I think I'll still do it if I have a new one or one I really want to play for you. But I was telling Tori earlier today, the thing about the weekly song is after 50 weeks, 50 songs, 50 performances, I do start to feel like I'm having to dig back into songs that I like and that I'm proud of, but are not really on my mind or on my heart to play. I want to play like the later stuff. I want to play new stuff. I want to play stuff from the last record. I want to play the songs that I would play if you came and saw me at a show. But I don't want to repeat myself in a documented, captured format. And it was a fun experiment to do that 100 performances in 100 days of 100 songs, because I had to really rediscover some old stuff. And that felt good, and it's what I'm going to do today. But I think there probably won't be a song next week, and maybe for a few weeks, and I hope that's cool with everybody. And you guys are always welcome and encouraged to comment on things you like and things you don't like. I'm fairly stubborn and hard-headed, and I have an independent streak about a mile long. I march to the beat of a horse of a different feather, you know what I'm saying? So I can't say that all of your complaints or criticisms or constructive whatevers will fall on eager ears, but I'd be happy to hear them. And if you do feel like, oh, I really hope we get a song next week, or, you know, whatever, let me know. In the meantime, this is an old song that I wrote, and it's called Call Me Davy, and it's of note in my catalog because I almost never do fictional, not biographical songs. And that's what this one is. This song is about a story that I heard that I don't know how legit it is like if this was just some guy that had this thought, or if it's one of the commonly told myths about this situation. But I read this thing that fascinated me, that Davy Jones, who's like this monstrous demon who haunts the sea and wrecks ships and then takes the souls to work his ship for 100 years. I heard this story that his origin is that he was Jonah from the Bible. And when that whale swallowed him up, he just snapped. And though we're told a different story about Jonah coming out of the whale, in this alternate version, he comes out as Davy Jones, and he stays at sea forever and is unhappy. And I quite like that story. I found it interesting, and it was something I hadn't heard before, and I liked it a lot. Excuse me, it's just water. It's gin. But again, I earned it this weekend. So this song is called Call Me Davy, and I put it out on a little EP a long time ago, and I always kind of wished that it had found its place somewhere with a broader audience. But it doesn't really fit in with what I do. And I still think someday it'll reappear somewhere. I have a few songs that I think will reappear. But for now, for today, I thought it would be kind of fun to just tell you a story and sing you a bit of fiction. And I realize it ain't exactly a happy song. You could tell because of this chord. Oh no. But I'm going to play it for you now. It's called Call Me Davy, and it goes like this. Don't you call me Jonah, no, I'm not the man you knew there on the shore. Just 'cause I didn't die at sea, that doesn't mean I'll be coming home. My friends all called me Jonah, but I ain't seen them in weeks. And everybody else, well, they just call me what they see in you. You can call me Davy. Don't you call me Jonah, no, he died there in the belly of the whale. forsaken by the God he loved and left to rot there in that deep blue hell. Well, my friends all begged for mercy and they found none here with me. And everybody else, well, I just gave them to the sea. And you can call me Davy. Don't you call me Jonah, no, that's not the man who's come to find you here. I've come for what is owed, and what is owed by you is 100 years. My friends all called me Jonah, but my God, he killed him dead. And the whale that spit him out, well, he spat out a beast instead. And you can call me Davy. I said you can call me Davy. All right. The part of the story that kind of fascinated me the most, apart from everything else about it, is the idea that initially he may have still been recognizable and he might have encountered old sailing buddies. And I like the idea of him having to deal with that. So yeah, let's do some recommendations and let's get you out of here. Recommendation 1 was a Father's Day gift that I'm thrilled about. This band is called Starflyer 59 and this record is called Young in My Head. Look at that cover. It's so good. I love cowboy stuff. Starflyer 59 have been a band forever. I think their first record was 94. So they're coming up on 30 years. And it's kind of the brainchild of one guy, and they go through different permutations, lineup-wise and even genre-wise. But a lot of indie rock, a lot of shoegazy stuff. And this record is superb. The production especially, which I don't comment on often, but the production on this record is perfect. The drums sound incredible, and everything else is tight and just perfectly exactly what is needed. It never really feels like there's more than 4 things happening. You get guitar, bass, drums, and some sort of 80s synthy things. And then his voice on this record is terrific. It's sort of low and sort of maybe Depeche Mode-y a little bit. So there's like some post-punk there, there's some indie rock in there, there's some Cure mixed in there. It's phenomenal. Listen to the title track, Young in My Head, and enjoy it. It's great. Speaking of synthy things, I don't think we've talked about this. This band is called The Killers, and this record is called Battle Born. I love The Killers. People are often surprised that I love The Killers as much as I really, really love them. Because you take Queen, you take Springsteen, and you take maybe Duran Duran, and you throw it in a blender, and then you turn that blender on in Las Vegas, and you get The Killers. What more do you need? That's fantastic. This record is notable because it seemed to me like one of their lesser known ones. This is album 4. And it's great, but it's probably not my favorite by them. My favorite by them is probably Sam's Town. But this record has some terrific stuff that you maybe haven't heard before. Listen to Runaways by The Killers off this record. It's phenomenal. And yeah, we did it. We went a little bit long, but it was a long weekend. What are you going to do? Thank you guys for listening. Thank you to anybody who reached out to me on Father's Day via whatever avenue and wished me happy Father's Day. That means a lot to me. I'm very happy that Ollie's dad is one of the things people use to define me. I'm very proud of that. And you could slap that on my gravestone and I'll be fine. Next week is going to be different, and you'll find out about that next week, because I will be traveling, playing music, when I would normally be shooting next week's episode. So I'm going to shoot it later today, and I'm going to do it a little bit differently. And hopefully you'll like it, and hopefully I'll like it, and hopefully through the whole thing we can stay flexible and know that, like, we could do whatever we want here. We could go back to doing it the same way we've always done it. We could keep doing songs. We could do whatever we feel like, and it's not going to matter as long as my wife and kid are okay, which they are. And I hope you're doing well. Like I said, I hope Father's Day wasn't too hard on you if it was hard on you. I hope it was happy if it was happy. And I hope everything's good. Till I see you again, you know, try to look at things whatever way you have to look at them to be at peace with them, because they're going to be there either way. I love you guys, and we'll talk real soon.